So let me ask you, what type of advice do you give to someone who's moving to Atlanta and they are ready to get on their grind? What's some advice or some tips that you can give them?
Give me a little feedback, because I know Jay's been here forever, but when I got here, I think one of the things you need to do is really just go out to events and just really go out. And it's not going out as this MC or as this producer, as this artist. Go out as whoever you are, your Tasha, your Tom, your Bill, your Chris, whatever. Just go out, just dare. Just go out and be that person and meet people, have an agenda, things like that. Because half the battle is showing up. So people start seeing your face and start to know things. And then as you grow into that, continue to work on your craft. Because a lot of times people are so busy marketing what they do rather than do what they do. A lot of times I remember in college, I have I call myself art by Odell. I actually have a BFA in fine art, so I do drawing, painting, and everything. But
from
Auburn University.
Okay, and where are you from originally?
I'm military brat. I was born in Alaska.
Oklahoma.
I lived in Oklahoma. I call Alabama home. That's where my mom's from. I went to high school and college, so I call Alabama home. But it's just the fact that when you're trying to put together that grind, you need to go out there and just tell people, as you start to do it, you keep working your craft. But I was going back to college. When I was in college, we would be there in our art classes, and I would start to tell people, I got this piece I'm working on, this thing I'm marketing, things like that. And I was already talking like an artist, and they were like, well, what do you mean? I was like, dude, are you thinking that this degree is gonna make you an artist? I said, this degree is not gonna make you an artist. I said, most of the great artists that are paid don't even have degrees, and they're not even school for college. They're in college. I was like, we're going here as more of a thing for a job like that. I was like, but I'm an artist now. I said, I meet people. I'm an artist. I said, I can't wait for no piece of paper. So, the thing is, working your craft, whatever your craft is, always continue to work on it. And then when you get out there and show your face, the reason you do that the first time, showing your face without saying stuff, is eventually people are going to start asking you. They're like, hey, man, I saw you at so-and-so event. Like, what do you do? What's that? And it's much better if somebody asks you what you do, rather than you cramming it down somebody's throat, cramming it down somebody's face, because it just throws the whole vibe off. So I just tell people, when you get here, really, put all the fanfare to the side and let people meet you. Because most people know me as Odell, and then they know me as Art by Odell, which is still the same moniker. But if you look at it, people know me. They're like, okay, I know that guy. Some people don't even know I do radio. Some people know me as a visual artist. Some people know me for other things, but because they know me as a person. And it's not just, let me just show you this car, let me just show you, hey, I rock with Jayforce, hey, I rock with this radio station. Nah, you know me, and people know you. Because at the end of the day, the last thing I'll say is that if people don't like you, they're not really going to mess with you. You might have a machine behind you, or you might have a check behind you, and they'll mess with you for that moment. But they don't really like you, other than a check, or other than using your name. They're not going to mess with you.
One thing I know, it's thousands of years, hundreds of years. You look at history. Interpersonal relationships.
He's a history buff too. He's a history buff.
Yeah, I'm big on history, man, because I think it all comes back around. It's just tweaked a little bit, but like how the players and all change. But if you look at history, and before the internet or any other case may be, everything always involves interpersonal relationships. It's always the interpersonal relationships. Now, just like I mentioned, I started in radio in 1990. in near Philadelphia. Back then, when you had more record labels, now there's only 3 big record labels. But back in those days, in the early 90s and stuff like that, 90 when I started radio, there were plenty of record labels. And I remember artists literally had to, because there's way more college radio stations than there are commercial radio stations. And I remember artists whether it be a Smith & Wesson or anybody coming up, they would literally do interviews with each and every college radio station, reach out to college radio stations, interpersonal relationships to do interviews. And I remember plenty of times, like Black Thought from the Roots we saw earlier today. I've known Black Thought for years. We've been friends for years. But I remember even the same thing that they did, the Roots would do. They would do interviews on every college radio station, whether by phone or travel to those places. And then hopefully if the student government had a show or concert, they would also perform. Back when I was in college, I used to book, even though I was friends with the Roots and everything and Black Thought, I would book somebody like Leaders in the New School, but I'd make sure the Roots are also opening up for them. I would book different acts like that, Fushnikins when they were popular, or Das Effects and everything. I'm like, I need them on there. So the interpersonal relationships, like Odell says, I think I see Odell do a lot of great things because Odell is just a naturally person who likes to get to know people and stuff like that. So people wind up seeing him and everything like, what else do you do? What do you do? And he's a naturally helpful person. So sometimes I find in 2014, the flash forward from the 90s or when I started in radio to now, I see a lot of entitlement amongst people who are artists. They think it's going to be just that easy. And I think back to, whenever I see that in people, I think back to when I started where I was like, well, wait a minute. These cats, some of the cats from the 90s would literally go from, if they were going to do a media run, they would literally go from New York to Philly to DC to Virginia and then make their way back. Like, might take a whole day to do interpersonal stuff. It might be a college event and they make sure they hit those colleges even if they're visible. Now, if you're an independent artist and you're like, you're not like really, trying to develop all those interpersonal relationships, half the game you're going to lose. I got injured and I thought I was going to eventually play in NFL, but I moved to Atlanta because I love radio and stuff. So I wanted to get involved with radio. And my very first job I had in Atlanta, just so I can kind of do what I need to do, I was working a security guard overnight. So during the day, I can make all the little connections that I need to make during the day while also doing radio. Sometimes you have to sacrifice if you really want it, but you also have to kind of be strategic in your movements. So like if you're a new artist moving to Atlanta, in my personal opinion, if you're a new artist moving to Atlanta, get something where you can kind of sustain yourself, but at the same time, try to be visible in enough places so that way people can connect the dots with you, to work with you. Also, just try to be everywhere. Just to read back to what I was saying earlier, try to be everywhere in a way where, you don't sacrifice your craft too much, but be everywhere in a way where it's kind of like making sure there's like a strip club event or something like that, building with an artist that you see that's coming up as well, that's working as hard as you are, try to get there and maybe developing a genuine relationship with that person. Hey, I do beats. Let me supply this person with beats because they're on the rise. Their work ethic, you see their work ethic as much as your own. I think those are important things, if that answers the question. It's just that we have to learn. Sometimes people have so much entitlement. I think everybody has to learn. We have to humble ourselves and understand that it's still work. You still may lose, but the point of the matter is if persistence beats resistance, and if you just be persistent with it and be a little smart and with a little luck, things will happen for you.
I think it's also patience.
Right.